Well, I hope we have some fun with this. Uh, what I propose to do today is to install macOS 10 10.5 Leopard onto the FireWire 800 MDD. Now, recently I have installed Tiger a couple of times. I've installed Jaguar. I've installed OS 9. I'll be installing some others. I have installed Leopard before, but not since Leopard was a new thing. So hopefully this is going to be cool. I cannot get that to stay centered. Okay. Now, it's been kind of adventurous. I downloaded the Leopard install DMG, which went fine, took a while. I was unable to burn it to a DVD. The DVD burner kept spitting it out, I think because the file is simply too big, so I would have needed to split it onto two separate DVDs. So I hit on what I think was an easier solution. I took a 300 gigabyte FireWire 800 external hard drive, made a small partition, well, 20 gigs, by the era that wasn't that small, and used disk utility to restore the Leopard DMG onto that partition. Now, hopefully, we're going to be able to boot into that partition. So, we will shut down. I could just restart to be sure. But I think we can be a little bit surer here, taking a little while to shut down. Indeed, taking forever to shut down. Why can't things just be simple? We are shut down. Now, right here, somewhere, there actually is a power button on the monitor. It's not an actual physical button, in the sense that the button on the machine is. It's more like, in fact, I think exactly like the button on the famous G4 Cube. It lights up. So I'm going to press that while holding in the Option key. Button lit up. So far we're having success. And we're just going to hope that the boot menu shows up. Well, it does. but it's not showing that partition as an option, darn it. We've got our little OS 9 type wristwatch icon. Maybe it's still looking. Ah! That time it did come up. Our patience is rewarded. Can't select it yet. It's still looking. Okay, we have our cursor arrow. Now we can select it. And we're going to boot up into what I certainly hope is going to be this installer. It should boot up faster than a CD would. Is the FireWire 800 connection that it's on. All right, we appear to be in the Leopard installer. I think using English as the main language is a fine idea. I speak a little French, a little bit Latin. Okay, now, before we move ahead here, we're going to go into utilities and disk utility. One of the odd things about this, the machine came with 2 installed hard drives, a 250 gig, forget what it says there. Gigabytes are defined differently now. Hard drive, maybe it is 240, probably is a 240. Macintosh hard drive, I forget exactly what that is, and a 60 gigabyte drive. Both of these drives, for whatever reason, have got duplicate installations of macOS Tiger. I don't really see why that should be, so just to have a little fun, we're going to erase the 60 gigabyte disk. Let's make sure I actually erase that one. All right. We're going to call the disk Jaguar and erase. Yeah, I live dangerously, computer. Okay, so we can now close out of disk utility. And now let's proceed with the installation. I read that. I promise you, I read that. Okay, so we're going to install here. Now, I will eventually, I wanted to install, I made it say Jaguar, didn't I? Well, that's dumb of me. Let's go back to disk utility. look at the information about it. Okay. I mean, yeah, in newer versions of Disk Utility, it's perfectly easy to simply rename the disk. All right. It doesn't matter. I could just install it and then okay. There we go. No worries. All right. Yeah, I had to go back and select the language again. Okay, agree. And now we'll have a disk called Leopard, because it doesn't make any sense to install Leopard on a disk called Jaguar, now does it? Okay. It likes that selection, and we're going to click install. And we'll wait at least until we get a time remaining. Again, I think one of the advantages of doing it this way is that it won't be quite the unbelievably long process it can be installing from a CD or DVD. It'll still take a while. Installations always do. Then again, I did all the downloading last night. It took a couple of hours, but it did it. Well, I'll tell you what, my friends, I was going to wait until the progress meter there told us the time, the estimated time remaining, which is never really accurate anyway. But having already made this longer than it should be, I'm going to stop the video here and we will pick it up again when something actually happens. All right, in part to entertain myself while the installation is going on, I thought you might be interested in a bit of a look at this setup. There are actually, of course, 3 computers there. Over in the corner is the 1,1 Mac Pro from 2006. The MDD, of course, is right there. Behind it is the dual G5 Power Mac. All right, sitting on top of the MDD is an older OWC external enclosure, entirely FireWire based. It does OWC does, I think they intended this to generally resemble computers of this nature. We've got the keyboard and the mouse both set up, and I am using that mouse, and it's okay. Keyboard and mouse. The keyboard has seen better days, but hey, it's there and it is vintage. And there's that display. Takes up a lot more room than the 23-inch monitor that I had on there, but you know, this entire period appropriate setup I find kind of amazing. So back right now, we've got 34 minutes left in the installation, and we'll be back to you for you just a second. Just so that you can share a little bit in this experience, it's been getting on to 35 minutes since I actually clicked the button to install. That was after I had formatted the drive twice because I gave it the wrong name, but anyway, and now immortalized on video. Anyhow, progress meters are interesting. Note down here it says Time remaining, about a minute. Now, it has said that for about the last 4 minutes. One would almost think that the developers do this kind of thing intentionally to build anticipation, or is it to drive you crazy? I don't know. Oh, you know, I was thinking, I had mentioned the power button, which is right down here. It lights up. It's not a physical button, but you touch it and it lights up and the machine actually goes on. And I made a reference then to it being like the power button on the G4 Cube. It occurs to me there are people who see these videos. Some of us, of course, live through all of this and we remember what all these things are. Some people would have no idea what the G4 Cube was. It was a fascinating little computer about the footprint of a modern Mac Mini, although taller, and it was a literal cube in the kind of acrylic case that these machines are in. And it had this neat thing in it where you turned the handle, you could lift the entire innards of the machine out of the enclosure in order to work on it. It still wasn't easy to work on because everything was crammed into this comparatively small space. It's an iconic computer. I had one. Back before the fire, I had one. I loved that machine. It was so much fun. I even had the Harman Kardon speakers that came with it. Gone now. I don't know that I'll pick up another one. They've really become iconic machines now. They're very desirable to collectors. And I can understand why, but it's kind of interesting to see how things become collectible and iconic, largely in part because they were failures, because the Cube just didn't sell. All right, and now I filled the time, and macOS was installed on your Leopard volume. It's going to restart in 17 seconds, but the anticipation is killing me. All right, hopefully now we reboot into the installed operating system on that 60 gig hard drive. All right. Hear the fan spinning up. The machine, excuse me, gets very noisy when it's first starting, but then it calms down, as it did just then. So experience this with me, my friends. Okay. Blue screen, gray screen. Spinning beach ball. Ah! Enjoy. The welcome video. And I remember this so well. You've waited through all of this time. the anticipation for your new operating system building, and now it's like a party. They don't do this anymore. In fact, it was running out. The last version, I believe, that had a welcome video was right after this, 10.6 Snow Leopard. Yes, I do live in the United States, so therefore a US keyboard is probably a good idea. It almost occurs to me I could transfer data from another Mac, from another volume on this Mac. Huh. And of course, the only other one is email. So that's going to bring over data that I've already put in to the Tiger installation. And it's calculating. All right, well, why not? That'll save me a little time. Okay, now I'm going to stop the video here because this is going to take a while, as opposed to doing a completely clean install. I mean, the Tiger installation is actually pretty clean. Okay, so we'll be back shortly. Well, just to report, it has said less than a minute remaining for, I am sure, I haven't timed it, but I'm sure it's been the last 10 minutes. I hope that it's winding up now. In all, it's probably easier to do this way. Otherwise, I've got to transfer. If I do a complete clean install, I'm going to have to hunt down applications that will work. A lot of the applications are already there. Now, yeah, having done this before, I've got installation files for applications stored on my network file server. But even that's a bit of a pain, sorting out which one is which and getting it over the network. I dabbled with the idea of getting it hardwired. You'd have to run cable up through the wall, but it could run from down there up into the closet next to me easily enough. Then put a hub in there and run to the various computers that are right near the closet. It could be doable, but probably not. And it begins to look like maybe I was wrong. I really thought this was about to wind up. Okay, no need to keep you. Be back presently. Well, that took about another 4 minutes. And here we are at the registration. Now, I really, can I just click continue? Yeah, I can. Oh, now that's cool. Oh, sure. We'll send it telling that my first name is EMAC. Now, whoever set up this computer has set up on the Tiger installation a user account named EMAC without a password. I communicated with the seller. I suppose maybe it was the seller. I really don't know. I gotta say, I wonder why EMAC. Again, for those who don't have this voluminous knowledge of old Apple products, there was a computer in Apple's line called the EMAC. What it was a version of the iMac G3 that iconic computer, as people say, the computer that saved Apple, that would be aimed towards the education market. Kind of stripped down, didn't have the fancy colors, but there you go. So yeah, eMac. All right, your Mac is set up and ready to go, so you can back up your computer. That was important in terms of advancements. In the PowerPC community, and I guess I'm part of the PowerPC community, people will often say that you're better off running Tiger because Tiger is better optimized for the PowerPC CPUs. The way I think of it, yeah, Tiger was designed as an operating system specifically for the PowerPC CPUs. However, it was adapted so that it could run on the newer machines with Intel CPUs. Leopard was the other way around. It was designed really for the Intel CPUs, but set up so that it would be backwards compatible with the earlier PowerPC CPUs. All right. There were a lot of improvements. Now, the big downside, in PowerPC running Leopard, there is no classic support. So you have no access at all to your OS 9 applications. Now, of course, on this machine, I can always boot back into Tiger anytime I want. All right, back up your computer. Many of us who use Macs, we take Time Machine absolutely for granted. Leopard introduced Time Machine, and it was kind of a revelation. It just made backing up so simple, as it is to this day. And it didn't happen before. Leopard, by the way, was introduced, I looked it up just to be sure, 2007, fairly late 2007, I think. Let me check that again. I think I've still got that open. Yeah, late October 2007. I had thought it was a little earlier than that, but then again, for a good 2 years plus, Tiger was the current operating system. All right, so Time Machine was one. Browse your files with cover flow. Email with style. Built-in email is not going to work. Thank God for 10.4 Bird. Chat using effects and backdrops. The iChat, of course, no longer works at all. This one, to me, was important. Organize your work. And you see the icon here, Spaces, was introduced for the first time. The ability to set up different desktops. I use that all the time. So I might have a couple applications open in one desktop, go to another space for another application. If I'm editing a video, I'll have one that's just for editing the video, but I can always go back and look at the others if I need to. Prior to Leopard, Spaces did not exist. Okay, let's continue, and we should now boot up into the desktop. I know we will. Just give it a second. It's going to do it. Huh. That's the Tiger background. Oh, maybe. All right, let's not lose hope. Yeah, I mean, it's still got Leopard listed up here. I think it transferred my background when I transferred data. I'm going to have to change that. Okay, but before we do, about this Mac, that scared me for a sec. Yep, the 1 gigahertz PowerPC, G4 Still 1.75 gig of RAM. Startup disk is Leopard. 10.5.4. We will be updating that. You want to use FireWire? No, we're not going to do that yet. I'm kind of getting used to using control click. The background. Okay, change desktop background. Are you going to do anything? Let's try that again. Okay. Apple images. It's old Apple images. Ah, there it is. Nature. The Aurora Borealis. That was the default background for Leopard, and it really grows on you. And here we are. Ah, I feel much better. Okay, so, we can play around with this some. A lot of icons here, the Leopard installer. I'll be moving those over to the network file server. I've got one more application I need to search out and download, Leopard WebKit, which was on the dual G5, that was the best option for viewing YouTube. I want to find out how that's going to work on this machine. Now, other things that are going to happen, I do have another 512 meg DIMM of RAM coming, so we will get it up to its full 2 gigabytes of RAM. I do have a 500 gig SSD and the adapters to install it via IDE. I haven't done that yet, so I will end up doing that and then cloning the 2 installations of macOS 10, this one Leopard and Tiger, onto partitions on that SSD. That will make a whole lot of sense. This 60 gig hard drive, I'm not sure. This may be the original drive. If it's not original, it's still pretty old. Now, Disk Utility says it's in good shape, but Disk Utility is not always right about that. All right, so those things will be coming up. I hope you've enjoyed this little glimpse into our past at installing legacy Macintosh operating systems. Now, thank you so much for having come along with the ride, and we shall see you when I put out something else. Thanks.